Hi everyone, welcome to my review of F.W. Murnau's The Haunted Castle from 1921. So yes, once again, yes indeed, we're back with a Murnau review, and this time a very interesting one. And yes, of course, I have been reviewing quite a lot of his films recently. Been quite a streak here, I must say, and it's just been wonderful. Of course, The Last Laugh, very good, and then of course the big two, City Girl, wonderful film, but Faust, particularly, consistently for me, was the one that completely blew me away. And the City Girl, actually, up until a point, was very close. Actually, it would have been kind of a, I don't really know what I prefer actually, maybe at times, but that did kind of go off a little bit. But a great film nevertheless, a wonderful film that I love, and is among my favourites. Top five, kind of 400 or something at the moment. But yes, Faust was the one that was an absolute masterpiece for me. So it's been a treat. And this, I didn't expect, loads and loads of greatness from this one. It's one of his earliest surviving films, and actually, yes, there's only one before this, or literally, yeah, within the same year actually it was, that is, surviving. The rest of them before this are lost, which is very sad. This does happen, of course, and once just saying it now, no spoilers here, so you can watch this without worrying about that. But yeah, it's really sad when this happens, especially directors like Murnau, and it happens. There's a lot of Japanese cinema actually as well, classic cinema that unfortunately is lost, and I come across this quite a lot. I watch films from a director, and then I find out unfortunately that there's quite a lot that aren't kind of available, not being preserved, and just unfortunately have been lost, and maybe will never be brought to anyone, which is really sad. I've not looked into this too much with the Murnau's, but Four Devils, of course, is a one that's I really would love to maybe see at some point. We can only hope. I doubt it though. Unfortunately, it may always forever be lost. And that was considered one of his finest, to be among his finest works. But yes, this one, it's not known to be a great film, and I'll say right away, it's an interesting, kind of watch here. It's not a great film for me. I must agree. It's definitely, it's not one of my favourite Murnau's or anything. But it's okay. It's very impressive at times. I think the best thing about the film is the setting and the overall, the way this this castle is portrayed, and the atmosphere in relation to that. And I think I do like this film. For what it kind of is bringing to us. It's more of a mood piece. More atmospheric than anything, and it's not something where there's I find a constantly engaging narrative at all. It was definitely flat at times, and it's maybe more experimental in that sense. But what the thing that does kind of remain is this atmosphere. It really is something, and it just kind of I think, yeah, it's kind of glimmering at the kind of the levels he would go to. Even just straight after this, really, the next year we have Nosferatu, which is a fully fledged masterpiece in my opinion. I think it's one of the best horror films ever made, and just one of the best films really in general. It's just a stunning film, and German expressionism, just perfection there. And this film, it definitely shows kind of the way he was going. Definitely, there's a lot of atmosphere to this film, and just, yes, as I say, the setting is kind of beautiful at times, and just really dreamy and stuff. But it's really chilling actually, and very glad I kind of watched this near to Halloween at least, a few weeks really now. But yes, it's kind of a great film to watch for that, and just kind of, it's a real atmosphere to this one. I loved how it kind of kept this until the end, even though some things are kind of wrapped up. It's kind of an ambiguous nature to it as well, and yes, just something that never fully lets up in terms of the kind of the feeling you're left with. And I loved certain moments as well, within the flashbacks, and stuff, and the overall way this because it's a mystery film, and basically this group of men, friends, acquaintances, and I'm kind of not too certain on every character, and there's not really characters that kind of stand out. But basically, this lord, gathers all these people together for a hunt, which kind of to last several days. But due to the weather and everything, they're basically for most of the film they're kind of inside, and it's more about this. Well, the castle is a character, and just the mysteries. It's one of them films. It's kind of just you learn more about this over the course of the film, and the first act, or there's 5 acts actually. It's actually split up into 5 acts, and you've got the intertitles and everything, which were very interesting as well. And yes, the first act is kind of flat a little bit, but it was very nice, just very kind of pleasing at the same time, and it was kind of slightly charming as well, and just kind of very low key, gradually unfolding. But the second act is when it starts to kind of pick up a bit more, and I think the third act is probably my favourite. It's got more of it's quite a lot of humour in that bit, in the act, and I think the dream sequences, that's when the dream sequences occur, and it's kind of certain characters in the film, as well, the kid as well, and he's imagining a really funny thing there in the kitchens. I won't get into, but yes, it's also a very chilling moment with one of the characters asleep in bed, and he wakes up and from a dream that's really disturbing, this nightmare, and I think that's when some of the highlights of the film just visual storytelling, really really chilling here, and just this kind of the atmosphere it creates. Murnau is really really on form here in terms of just the way he uses the castle to disturb, and the way he doesn't reveal a lot of things here. There's kind of a way he presents the castle. It's really a key thing to the film, and just the way he doesn't show certain areas. He does at times, and then he kind of it kind of lets you wonder at certain things, which is really really key for this, and just horror films in general and cinema in general. He really knows how to do this, and the way he uses the lighting as well. It's really just this very eerie feeling that this film has, and yes, it's kind of there's different people that are suspected as well. There was a murder, of course, and the brother, of the victim, is kind of he is suspected, and then of course you got the widow as well of the deceased, who is also suspected, basically of killing him, and you learn over the film basically roughly more or less what kind of happened, and it's a mystery, and they all kind of suspect people. It's not a film that kind of directly addresses all this. It's kind of just more of a it's hard to say. It's more revealed through flashbacks, and kind of there's not really too much interaction actually. It's not like someone's going around really in many ways and investigating like you would see in a lot of films, but it's very very interesting. It kind of leads to it's definitely a bit flat at times, and it's not really got too much of a momentum at times. Just in terms of that, the narrative is not. It's not that strong, I wouldn't say, but it's more about the atmosphere, and just over the course of the film, the kind of the moments, different moments. I would say it's not a constantly invested film, as I've said, and there is a slight lack of consistency, definitely, and there's not really any standout characters really. But there was a bit, towards the end of the film actually, which I was kind of like, oh wow, that's amazing. Actually, there's kind of moment I won't spoil. A little kind of reveal there, and that's something that was really great to look back on the film. But other than that, you've got human moments, and I love the kind of actually the widow and her partner, of course, the deceased. You see a kind of a flashback there, and that's really really quite wonderful moments there. But you've not really got too much standout characters. It's more of at times experimental, but other times quite confident. Mood piece. It's not something that I got fully invested with, but I did enjoy it. I think it's just a very peaceful film at times, and it's one of them films. These characters, of course, coming inside for a lot of the film, to kind of take shelter, and I think there's definitely potential there, to kind of have develop these characters more, and make them more investing and charming maybe perhaps, but in some areas it's just very very kind of peaceful and charming as well. Just the way they're kind of all together, kind of coming in from the rain, and you know, there's just a kind of a real feeling to the film that I think is just very impressive, very disturbing at times, and it's got some humour in there as well, and yeah, it's kind of it's an okay film. It's not one of his best films, I don't feel, but you know, I don't think I didn't really expect that at all. You know, I expected to be, you know, entertained and be, you know, kind of take something from the film, and certainly did. It's a very impressive, you know, it's very impressive in its visuals, particularly, and you know, the framing is definitely very impressive. You know, just the way he kind of creates his atmosphere, as I say, and the whole kind of the way this castle is just a character of his own is just really key, and you know, I just think it's very atmospheric throughout, and yeah, it's just as well kind of a peaceful film. You know, something that's kind of tranquil, and you know, it's very relaxed at times, which I guess a lot of people would you know, not enjoy, and certainly I'm definitely saying it definitely is flat at times, I feel, personally. It's not a film that, as I say, has a very consistent feeling really with the narrative or anything like that, and there's a lot of I think you know, there's certainly potential here for it to have been better, but yes, overall I think it's, you know, it's an okay film. I did like it, and have to give it a 61%. Yeah, it's yes, average, but you know, I think it's definitely very impressive in its atmosphere, its mood, of course, and just I think certain moments in this film very lovely, just very pleasing, and yes, it's kind of it's a peaceful kind of maybe, yeah, quite warm film at times, that just it's the location, you know, the way it's shot, of course, you know, the editing is maybe a bit definitely a bit problematic, but you know, it's kind of more, yeah, I wouldn't say messy, but you know, loose, but in a way that it's kind of, it's not really, yeah, it's not too focused, I would say, but you know, it kind of, it works in its favour at times, other times it doesn't, but yeah, it's definitely just, you know, an enjoyable film, I found, for the most part. Nothing special, I didn't feel, but certainly very you know, interesting to see, and kind of just another Murnau film that is you know, definitely worth checking out. Well, I'm going to see all of his films, you know, that are surviving, of course, but yes, this was it was, you know, it was a film that I did you know, I did find flat at times, I must say, and there's nothing that really stood out as, you know, for example, as I've said, you know, a great character, or really too many moments, you know, interactions really throughout that were very engaging in that sense. But it's more about the atmosphere, the kind of location, you know, and just the overall, the way it's shot, to create this kind of mood, you know, this kind of tone, of course, and yeah, just I think disturb and kind of you know, intrigue me, and just make me wonder at certain moments. And yeah, it's just quite basic in that sense, but you know, definitely I did like the film, and I can't say everyone would like this film. It's not for everyone, of course, but you know, some people would be you know, disappointed, I feel, but it certainly for me, it was what I kind of thought it would be. Just a kind of an interesting, you know, kind of you know, atmospheric kind of you know, kind of low key film, and you know, it was a mystery. As I say, it wasn't, you know, fully engaging in that sense, and it could have been, certainly could have been better, but it's definitely a very commendable film, and you know, one that kind of, it's very interesting as well to kind of see how it, you know, his style was kind of already, you know, beginning here, you know, kind of leading off, you know, branching off, of course, especially with Nosferatu being, you know, he released that, of course, in 22. So it's very interesting to kind of find you know, connections here and stuff. But yes, you know, it's okay. It's average. I do recommend it, of course, and it's very you know, it's good to watch, of course, you know, around the Halloween time, and yeah, it's definitely just, it's more about, you know, one of the most important things, you know, well, yeah, it's one of the most important things in a horror film, for me, is atmosphere. You know, that maybe is the most important, you know, thing, and definitely, you know, very impressive at times throughout this film. And yes, another Murnau that I do like, the only one I'm not really, I don't really like, is the Grand Duke's Finances so far. So yeah, you know, definitely very good to say that. And of course, you know, Murnau, you know, when he's at his best, this isn't, you know, this isn't anywhere close to that, but you know, when he's at his best, of course, as I've been saying, and certainly after Faust, you know, and City Girl, he is among my favourite directors, so this is worth checking out, of course, if you do love Murnau, his work, and just, you know, horror films, silent films, ones that, you know, are not full of jump scares, perhaps, you know, just more about the atmosphere and the sense of dread and the location, you know, the way this is captured. In that sense, it is impressive, and I did enjoy the film. You know, kind of enjoy this one. Didn't love it, but definitely, you know, one that I give a like. And yes, as always, tell me your thoughts in the comments. I don't imagine too many people have probably seen this one. Actually, it's not quite as seen as a lot of his work. You know, looking online and stuff. But yes, tell me your thoughts. And if you've not seen it, of course, I do recommend it. And yes, thanks for watching my review.